I got that animal ambition. I got that animal ambition. I got that.
What's up, y'all? Smoak here. What's good? In this video, I'm gonna be watching 10 times wrestlers spoil their own matches by World Culture Wrestling. Let's take a watch this video.
From the look on wrestlers' faces telling you everything you need to know about the match that was heading your way, to the specific clothing, entrances, and items wrestlers boasted at certain moments pointing to a victory or defeat. These are those wrestlers who spoiled their matches ahead of time. I'm Gareth, this is What Culture Wrestling, and here are 10 times wrestlers spoiled their own matches. Number 10, Drew McIntyre seems quite deflated during his big match entrance in Wales. After the biggest moment of his career unfortunately ended up playing out in front of a live audience of 0 back in 2020, it's safe to say a good 60,000 folks inside of the Principality Stadium were hoping Clash at the Castle would be Drew McIntyre's night. However, from the moment the Scottish Warrior wandered out in front of that massive UK crowd on September 2nd, 2022, one look at the big lad suggested even more heartbreak was incoming. Seconds after the dramatic return of his Broken Dreams theme, McIntyre sported the deflated look of a bloke who'd been told earlier that day more bloodline shenanigans were going to ensure Roman's reign continued. Sure, the Scot still did what he could to get his supposed hometown of Wales fired up for the war to come, but it was tough to shake the feeling you were watching a disappointed star simply drinking in the main event moment in front of a packed British stadium. Or maybe Drew had just been given a brief glimpse into the future and was dealing with the fact he'd be awkwardly screeching out some American Pie not long after the most painful defeat of his career. Number 9, Cody Road's pre-match routine suggests heartbreak in the main event. It felt like the entire planet was willing Cody Rhodes on to finish the damn story coming into night 2 of WrestleMania 39. The American Nightmare had masterfully established himself as the most obvious candidate in the company to take the head of the table spot at the very top, and everything pointed to a legendary night for the adored blonde hero. That was until he stepped out on the entrance ramp inside of SoFi Stadium. The crowd were well and truly behind their babyface, singing out Kingdom at the top of their lungs. But a performer known for wearing his heart on his sleeve seemed that little less enthusiastic than usual, especially for a wrestler walking into the biggest match of his life. Everything from the painful stare Rhodes gave a brutal sign with the word overrated slapped on it, yeah thanks for that, to the forced smile he continually pushed out in an attempt to keep spirits up, to even the way he emotionally interacted with his family and young Brody Lee Jr. at ringside, had fans fearing the worst before Roman Reigns had even hit the ring. Sure enough, 35 epic minutes later, a defeated Rhodes was chilling with a chicken. Now I've got a quick question for you. Was this the most heartbreaking moment in wrestling history? Well, if it wasn't, I want to know what is in the comment section down below, baby. Number 8, Jonathan Gresham looks like a defeated man at Death Before Dishonor. Jonathan Gresham had evidently checked out of all things Ring of Honor / AEW on the night of Death Before Dishonor 2022. It would eventually be revealed that the then Ring of Honor World Champion had requested his release after a lack of communication with boss Tony Khan, with Gresham then making his way to the ring for his match against Claudio Castagnoli like a performer who wanted to be anywhere else on planet Earth. His usual epic mask, flag, and passion were all absent as he wandered down to the ring with a blank expression on his face. Gresham wasn't here to put on a show, he was here to do the job and leave. He did exactly that, to be fair, shook the new champ's hand, and had a civil chat with Khan post-match as the Ring of Honor owner explained how no bridges had been burned despite Gresham's controversial exit. But all that doesn't change the fact that Gresham pretty much gave away his last Ring of Honor match's ending from the moment the fed-up champ emerged maskless on July 23rd, 2022. Number 7,
you was hearing rumors, I believe, at the time prior to this match of him having issues and stuff, so
crown not fitting shows you Shawn Michaels isn't winning at King of the Ring 1995. Speaking of headwear spoiling the finish of a wrestling match, Shawn Michaels simply could not help himself on the night of King of the Ring 1995, could he? That tournament would ultimately be shockingly won by none other than the big lad Mabel, with the likes of HBK and The Undertaker failing to get past the first pay-per-view round during the event. But if you were watching closely earlier on in the show, you'd have spotted a heartbreak clue at what was on the horizon, in a moment that seemingly led to a big chunk of Michaels' entrance being deleted from the WWE network, this showstopper decided to skip up to the podium and try on the crown he was fighting for before the next King of the Ring winner was made official later in the evening. And it was here when it became painfully obvious that Michaels wouldn't be walking out of Philadelphia with the title of new king in town, largely because the crown in question was clearly way too big for the head of even the bloke with the biggest ego in wrestling. Number 6, Kane's pyro not going off in his entrance usually led to a win. Regardless of how you feel about the big red machine today, his fiery entrance whenever he appeared on a WWE stage still ranks as one of the more epic arrivals in company history. But were you aware of the secret detail hidden within Kane's regular ring post explosions? It turns out that, more often than not, if the monstrous figure was going to be staring up at the lights that night, the fire would very much erupt out of the four corners of the ring before he threw down with his opponent. However, if he was set to have his massive arm raised, the ring post blaze wouldn't go down during his entrance at all. Now sure, there's no doubt been the odd exception over the years. Generally though, it appears WWE were only able to shoot heat out of the post once a night, choosing to save the big red blast for either a dramatic emergence before an L or a burning exclamation point post-victory. Number 5, Hikaru Shida holds back the tears before winning the big one. The fact AEW actually decided to give their talented women the main event spot for the 200th Dynamite episode was already enough of a reason to assume something special was on its way. But then Hikaru Shida emerged from the right-hand tunnel on the night of August 2nd, 2023, and the idea of a new AEW Women's World Champion being crowned in Tampa soon became inevitable. Now sure, you may have initially fooled yourself into thinking the fan-favorite challenger was simply finding a way to compose herself before such a monumental contest. But in hindsight, it very much looks like the eventual victor was instead just trying to keep herself from letting out the understandable tears of joy at being handed the title before the biggest show in company history. And if that didn't let you know a big old title switch was coming in the lead up to All In, then a clearly somewhat downhearted, soon-to-be timeless Toni Storm's face, as she made her champion's entrance shortly after, all but confirmed it. Number 4.
Oh wait, time out. No way. She's a heel. What, you want her to smile? Oh my gosh. This guy is reaching too hard, bro.
Lex Luger looks like he's checked out during his WrestleMania 10 entrance, as picked up by a fan on Reddit in the R² Circle post that inspired this very list. Lex Luger's entrance at WrestleMania 10 may as well have seen him walking out with a red, white, and blue L tattooed on his chest. Yokozuna's first WWE Championship challenger inside of Madison Square Garden that night looked like he just had his heart ripped right out of his chest and bonsai dropped into the dirt. Instead of enthusiastically engaging with the fans cheering him on, Luger chucked out a couple of half-assed high fives as Vince McMahon tried to cover his complete lack of energy or passion with some jarring pre-Daniel Bryan chants of yes, yes, yes. In fairness, Luger was probably just gutted at not being the one the boss had opted to pass the world title ball to at the event, and the way he was booked to fail likely didn't get him fired up beforehand either, with Luger ultimately losing out on winning the big belt after being disqualified for pushing the perfect official. All of the above produced a Luger who looked well and truly defeated before he'd even thrown a punch. Number 3.
Okay, that one's different. That one's different. Because you're going out there and you're like, you're not doing your usual stuff like that. God, I don't know. I forgot his name already. From Ring of Honor, Gresham, I think his last name is. Doing this like usual routine and just going out there like, let's get it over with. That's different. Like Lex Luger, he didn't, like he said, he was doing like half-assed high fives and stuff to the fans and to his usual stuff beforehand. He was just ready to get this over with and stuff, man. Do his job and then get out the building and stuff.
Ric Flair in red generally meant an L wasn't far away. Back when the Nature Boy was known more for his in-ring work than his awful behavior outside of it, Ric Flair showed off more than a few different versions of his basic trunks and boots attire. Pink, yellow, blue, purple. Flair donned them all at various points in his career, but none of those colors ever pretty much guaranteed the result of one of his bouts. The same could not be said for those times the WCW, WWE, and now AEW man, that still feels bizarre to say, went for a set of red clothes heading into a match, however. Typically, if this blonde-haired heel was strutting into a building in red, he'd be taking a pinfall, submission, or other kind of L in the middle of the squared circle. At WrestleMania 8, when coming up short against the Macho Man, red. Dropping the NWA title to Ricky the Dragon Steamboat at the Chi-Town Rumble, red. Becoming the then latest addition to The Undertaker's streak at WrestleMania X8, you get the idea. Here's hoping his recent arrival in the Land of All Elite doesn't result in the 74-year-old dusting off the losing trunks for one last unwanted in-ring appearance, eh? Number 2, The New Day bring out a title-winning gift at WrestleMania 35. Admittedly, you'd probably struggle to find a single fan inside of MetLife Stadium who ever felt that the despicable Daniel Bryan was going to be the one walking out of WrestleMania 35 with the WWE Championship over his shoulder. After all the work WWE had put into presenting Kofi Kingston as the most lovable underdog hero since the American Dragon himself, opting to swerve fans with a pointless loss at the height of Kofi Mania would have been, well, something
accurate.
you could still imagine Vince McMahon getting a kick out of, sadly. But thankfully, the creepy billionaire committed to a new WWE champion on the night, something that was absolutely confirmed during the Challengers Show of Shows entrance. With Kingston being accompanied by his New Day pals, Big E eventually pulled out a cheeky gift he'd brought along for his mate for after the match, and it'd be especially cruel even for this company to tease a little surprise for Kofi, only to have him stumble at the final hurdle on the biggest stage. Oh, and there was also that podium at ringside, with Bryan's hemp WWE Championship not fully covering the OG title hiding underneath a blanket on it, and visibly spoiling a result folks were fully expecting anyway. The power of positivity paid off in the end, of course. Kofi won the big one, bringing back the leather and gold WWE title before celebrating with a bunch of Championship Kingston shirts courtesy of his loyal friends. Number 1, Liv Morgan struggles to compose herself as she enters the biggest night of her WWE career. Similarly to the terrific Hikaru Shida earlier this year, a quick glance at Liv Morgan during her entrance at Money in the Bank 2022 told you all you needed to know about how her night was gonna play out. Not only would the one-time Riot Squad member end up unhooking the titular briefcase at the event inside of the MGM Grand Garden Arena, but she also only went and cashed in said shot at the gold against Ronda Rousey that same evening, and picked up her first SmackDown Women's Championship. And while Morgan racking up 2 monumental achievements within 3 hours no doubt came as a bit of a shock to the average WWE fan, the fact she was about to experience the biggest night of her career so far was actually written all over her face. As the babyface arrived for the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, Morgan was simply overflowing with emotion, fighting with all her might to hold back the tears as the reality of the insane situation set in. After finally pulling off the entirely unexpected a few hours later though, Liv was finally free to let those tears flow, and a justifiable holy shh for good measure. And that's our list. Know of any other times wrestlers spoiled their own matches? Well, let us know all about them in the comments section right down below, and don't forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you're down there. Also, if you
Yeah, it was a cool vid. I totally misinterpret that title of wrestlers spoil their own matches. I thought it was gonna be like they accidentally leaked the news or something. No, it was just based off the facial expression. When looking at now, it's just like, oh snap. Hikaru Shida, just like can't maintain the facial expression on her face, just showing like excitement and stuff. I just expected something totally different. But yeah, I mean, stuff like that happens. You're just so excited your moment's about to come, you know, being in this business and grinding so hard, you're like, oh yes, let's go, and then you're just like, oh man, I can't control myself, what do I do? You just like do the best you can to, you know, maintain the excitement. Yeah, thank you guys for watching. Peace, I'm out.